The shuttle bay of the Galactic Survival Academy hummed with the nervous energy of beings from across 17 star systems. Most arrivals moved with the calculated precision of elite warriors Serpentine Naga commandos checking their biosuits. Crystalline quartz soldiers calibrating their frequency shields, and hulking Gorvani mercenaries flexing their forearms in preparation for the legendary Omega Protocol. Then there were the humans. Dude, is that thing supposed to be glowing green? Jake Martinez pointed at a harmless orientation beacon while adjusting his university hoodie. His backpack, covered in patches from various Earth national parks, looked comically casual among the military-grade gear surrounding them. Sarah Chun, a biology major with dirt still under her fingernails from her last botany lab, was already pulling out her phone to take pictures. This is so cool. Maya, look at those translucent guys. Their cellular structure must be silicon-based. Maya Patel, an engineering student, was more concerned with practical matters. Did anyone actually read the course description? Because I'm pretty sure we signed up for cultural appreciation through gentle exploration, not. She gestured at the massive holographic display showing survival statistics. Double quotes ... whatever this is. Marcus Thompson, a philosophy major who'd only joined the program to impress a girl, was too busy trying to figure out the universal translator attached to his collar to pay attention to the ominous warnings echoing through the chamber. Emma Rodriguez, a pre-med student, was the first to notice the problem. Guys, that display says Omega Protocol Survival Course, and the mortality rate is 73%. That seems high for a cultural exchange program. The orientation hologram flickered to life, projecting a stern-looking Zentorian instructor, whose 6 eyes betrayed nothing but professional disappointment. Welcome, candidates, to the most brutal survival course in galactic history. You have volunteered for 17 environments designed to break your will, shatter your confidence, and forge the few survivors into legends. Jake raised his hand. Excuse me, but I think there's been a mistake. We're from Earth University's Study Abroad program. We were supposed to learn about alien art and maybe try some space food. The instructor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Ah, yes, the infamous human humor. Your species' psychological defense mechanism against impending doom. Very well. Maintain your facade if it helps you cope with the reality of your situation. Around them, hardened warriors from across the galaxy were conducting final equipment checks and saying what appeared to be final farewells to their battle companions. The humans, meanwhile, were debating whether they should have brought more snacks. Look, Sarah said, consulting her course itinerary. It says here we're supposed to start with gentle atmospheric adaptation tomorrow. How bad could it be? The answer came 3 hours later when they were herded into a transport vessel with 30 other beings, half of whom were praying to various cosmic deities, and the other half writing what appeared to be final wills. The humans spent the journey sharing trail mix and arguing about which Marvel movie had the best space battles. As their transport approached the first survival zone, a radiation-scorched moon that had claimed 47 lives in the past year, Emma looked out the viewport and shrugged. Honestly, it just looks like Arizona in summer. At least there's no traffic. Asterisk, the first environment was designated Lethal Radiation Zone 7, a landscape of crystalline formations jutting from red sand under a merciless twin-sun sky. The radiation levels were supposedly high enough to cook most organic matter within hours, which explained why the other candidates were sealed in expensive biosuits that hummed with protective energy fields. The humans emerged from the transport in their regular clothes, having been told their basic protective gear was sufficient. Sarah immediately knelt to examine a cluster of purple crystals, completely ignoring the clicking of radiation detectors around her. These formations are incredible, she muttered, taking photos. The molecular structure must be adapting to the radiation Look how they're actually channeling it. A nearby court soldier, encased in a bulky containment suit, gestured frantically. Human, step away from the death crystals. Those formations are pure concentrated radiation. Jake, who had been trying to get a better view of the landscape, squinted at the alien. Are you okay in there? You sound like you're having trouble breathing. Maybe loosen up that suit a bit? Maya was already at work, having noticed that several aliens were struggling with equipment failures. Your atmospheric processors are overcompensating, she told a group of Naga commandos whose biosuits were sparking ominously. You just need to recalibrate the intake valves. She produced a basic multi-tool from her backpack and began making adjustments. How do you know our technology? Hissed the squad leader, his voice distorted by the helmet speakers. It's just basic engineering, Maya replied, popping open a panel. Same principles as fixing a car's air conditioning. There, that should help with the overheating. The Naga stared as his suit's warning lights turned from red to green. Around them, other aliens were beginning to notice that the humans seemed remarkably unaffected by their surroundings. No protective gear, no radiation sickness, no fear of the supposedly deadly environment. Marcus, meanwhile, had discovered that the local water sources deemed toxic by the Academy's standards tasted roughly like tap water from his dorm. It's got a bit of a metallic taste, he admitted, but it's not worse than the stuff that comes out of the fountain in the engineering building. Emma was conducting an impromptu medical examination of a Gorvani warrior whose biosuit had malfunctioned. Your respiratory system is shutting down from stress, she diagnosed, but your actual radiation exposure is minimal. The suit's sensors are just overly sensitive. As the day wore on, the humans continued their casual exploration while their alien companions struggled with equipment failures, radiation poisoning, and existential dread. The Academy's monitoring station watched in growing amazement as the 5 Earth students not only survived, but began helping other candidates overcome the environment's challenges. They're treating it like a hiking trip, whispered instructor Zektal to his colleagues. The radiation that's killing trained warriors is having no effect on them whatsoever. By evening, the humans had set up camp using techniques Jake had learned in Boy Scouts. Sarah had cataloged 17 new mineral formations, and Maya had jury-rigged solutions for half the malfunctioning equipment in the zone. They shared their dinner energy bars and instant coffee with a group of demoralized Centaurian special forces who were beginning to question their life choices. Tomorrow's environment is supposed to be even worse, Emma mentioned casually as she helped treat a court soldier's stress-induced frequency disruption. Something about toxic atmosphere and aggressive fauna. Jake grinned, pulling out his phone to show pictures to their alien companions. Sounds like the time I went camping in Yellowstone. Did I ever tell you guys about the bear that got into our cooler? Asterisk Environment 2 was officially designated Atmospheric Poison Zone 12, a lush jungle world where the air itself was supposedly lethal to most forms of life. The atmosphere contained a cocktail of chemicals that would dissolve most beings' respiratory systems within minutes, while the indigenous fauna had evolved to be aggressively territorial and venomous. The surviving candidates, now reduced to about half their original number, emerged from their transport vessels, wearing full atmospheric suits with independent oxygen supplies. The humans stepped out in their regular clothes, taking deep breaths of the supposedly deadly air. Oh, wow, Sarah said, inhaling appreciatively. This is actually really nice. Reminds me of the air quality in Portland on a good day. Marcus coughed slightly. It's got that industrial tang to it, but honestly, it's better than the air in downtown. Lee during rush hour. The jungle around them was a riot of bioluminescent plants and strange, chittering sounds. What the Academy classified as aggressively hostile fauna began emerging from the undergrowth creatures that looked like six-legged Panthers with crystalline spines and acid-dripping fangs. Jake immediately perked up. Oh my God, they're so cute. Here, kitty kitty. Jake, no. Emma called out, but he was already approaching one of the supposedly deadly predators, making the same clicking sounds he used to call his neighbor's cat, the creature, a void stalker. That had killed 3 beings in the previous trial. Stopped mid-approach and tilted its head. Jake sat down cross-legged and let it sniff his hand. Within minutes, he was scratching behind its ears while it purred in a way that made nearby trees vibrate. They're just big cats, he explained to a group of terrified Naga commandos. They're probably just protecting their territory. You just need to show them you're not a threat. Maya, meanwhile, had discovered that the toxic water sources were actually quite drinkable. It tastes like well water from my grandparents' farm, she reported, filling her water bottle directly from a stream that was marked with skull and crossbones symbols on the Academy's maps. Sarah was in heaven, cataloging dozens of plants that were supposedly lethal to touch. Look at this one, she said, handling a flower that was classified as death in 30 seconds. It's got the most beautiful bioluminescent properties. And this bark, it's actually got medicinal properties. It's like natural aspirin. The alien candidates watched in growing disbelief as the humans treated their nightmare environment like a pleasant nature walk. When a massive void stalker alpha appeared, a creature that had single-handedly ended the previous trial by killing 7 candidates, Jake simply walked up to it and began playing fetch with a stick. How? Whispered a Zentarian warrior whose atmospheric suit was beginning to fail. How are you not dead? Emma, who was using her pre-med knowledge to help treat acid burns on a Gorvani soldier, looked up from her work. Dead from what? The air? It's not great, but I've been to Beijing during smog season. This is actually kind of refreshing. The Academy's monitoring station was in chaos. Instructor Zektal was frantically reviewing Earth's environmental data while his colleagues watched the live feeds in stunned silence. Look at this, he said, his voice pitched higher than usual. Earth's atmospheric composition includes nitrogen, oxygen, and trace amounts of argon. But look at the pollution levels in their urban centers. They've been breathing mild toxins their entire lives. And their wildlife, added another instructor, pulling up footage of Earth's fauna. They coexist with creatures that would be classified as apex predators on most worlds. Look at this, they keep some of them as pets. By the end of the day, the humans had essentially turned the survival zone into a campground. They'd befriended the local wildlife, identified edible plants, and were roasting something that looked like toxic mushrooms over a fire that Sarah had started using techniques she'd learned in Girl Scouts. Tomorrow's environment is supposed to be underwater, Maya mentioned, checking her course schedule. Some kind of crushing depth scenario. Jake, who is still playing with his new void stalker friend, brightened. Sweet. I love swimming. Did I mention I was on the dive team in high school? Part 4. Pressure and Revelations. The third environment was Abyssal Pressure Zone 5. A water world where candidates would be subjected to crushing depths that had historically compressed most beings into paste. The remaining candidates, now down to 15 individuals, were equipped with expensive pressure suits that cost more than most planets' annual budgets. The humans were handed what appeared to be basic diving gear that looked suspiciously like equipment from Earth's Navy surplus stores. This is just standard scuba gear, Maya observed, checking the regulator. Like, this is what you'd rent at a dive shop in Florida. They descended into the crushing depths while their alien companions struggled with complex pressure compensation systems. The water pressure that was supposed to be lethal felt roughly equivalent to diving in a deep lake, and the humans found themselves swimming around with the casual ease of people who had learned to swim in Earth's oceans. Oh, this is beautiful. Sarah said through her communicator, photographing bioluminescent creatures that other species classified as nightmare horrors of the deep. "Look at this guy, he's like a giant jellyfish, but friendly." She was gently petting a creature that was officially designated as a soul render, a being that had killed 12 candidates in previous trials by inducing psychic terror. It was. Now following her around like a curious puppy, Jake had discovered that the crushing water pressure was actually quite relaxing. "It's like being in a really deep hot tub," he reported, floating peacefully while nearby court soldiers struggled with pressure suit malfunctions. The underwater environment was supposed to be a maze of crushing currents and predatory creatures. Instead, the humans found it to be a pleasant swimming experience with interesting marine life. Emma was using her pre-med knowledge to help a Gorvani warrior whose pressure suit was failing, while Marcus had somehow managed to make friends with a school of what the Academy called depth devourers. "They're just curious," he explained, as the supposedly vicious creatures swam around him in lazy circles. "They probably don't see many surface dwellers down here." Maya, meanwhile, had identified several structural problems with the Academy's underwater equipment. "Your pressure regulators are over-engineered," she told a group of struggling Naga commandos. "All this complexity is just creating more failure points. Look, you can fix it with a basic adjustment." As she worked, the Academy's instructors watched from their monitoring station in growing amazement. The humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving in conditions that were designed to be instantly lethal. "Pull up Earth's oceanic data," Instructor Zektal ordered, his voice shaking slightly. "I want to see what kind of water pressure they're accustomed to." The data was terrifying. Earth's oceans reached pressures that would crush most galactic species instantly, and yet humans regularly dove to depths that would kill trained warriors. Their planet's marine life included creatures that would be classified as galaxy-class threats on most worlds. "They swim with predators for recreation," whispered one instructor, reviewing footage of humans swimming with sharks. "May consider it entertainment." By the time the day ended, the humans had essentially turned the underwater death trap into a pleasant diving excursion. They'd befriended the local marine life, identified several edible species, and were teaching basic swimming techniques to alien candidates whose pressure suits were malfunctioning. "2 more environments to go," Emma mentioned as they surfaced. "Something about extreme temperature variations, and then a final psychological horror zone." Sarah, who was still excited about her underwater photography, grinned. "The temperature. One sounds fun. I did field work in Antarctica last summer, and Jake grew up in Arizona. We should be fine." The remaining alien candidates exchanged worried glances. If the humans considered the previous environments fun, what did that say about their home planet? More importantly, what did it say about humanity's place in the galaxy? The 4th environment was Thermal Extremes Zone 1. Where candidates faced alternating periods of Arctic cold and desert heat that had historically killed more beings than any other single challenge. The remaining 8 non-human candidates were equipped with environmental suits that cost more than small space stations. The humans were given basic cold weather gear that looked like standard ski equipment. "This is just like that camping trip in Minnesota," Jake said, adjusting his jacket as they faced temperatures that were supposed to freeze most beings solid within minutes. "Remember when the heater broke in the cabin?" "At least it's a dry cold," Sarah added, examining ice formations that were classified as death crystals, but looked remarkably similar to the ones she'd studied in her glaciology elective. The heat phase was equally unremarkable for the humans. While their alien companions struggled with cooling systems and thermal regulation, the humans simply removed their jackets and continued their casual exploration. "It's like Phoenix in July," Marcus observed, taking pictures of what the Academy called heat mirages of madness, but which looked like standard desert phenomena. hot but not unbearable. Emma was busy treating heat exhaustion in a Centaurian warrior whose environmental suit had malfunctioned. "Your body's not designed for these temperature fluctuations," she explained, "but it's really just a matter of proper hydration and gradual acclimatization." Maya had identified fundamental flaws in the Academy's environmental control systems. "You're trying to fight the environment instead of adapting to it," she told a group of failing candidates. "It's more energy efficient to work with the temperature changes than against them." The final environment was supposed to be the worst, Psychological Horror Zone Omega, where candidates faced their deepest fears and most traumatic memories amplified by alien technology. It was designed to break minds and had never been successfully completed. The humans walked into the zone, expecting the worst, and found a standard haunted house experience. "Is that supposed to be scary?" Jake asked, pointing at a manifestation of cosmic dread that was making other candidates scream in terror. "It looks like the decorations from my neighborhood Halloween display." The Psychological Horror Zone threw everything it had at the humans: manifestations of death, cosmic insignificance, existential dread, and the fear of being alone in an uncaring universe. The humans' response was to critique the special effects and compare them to movies they'd seen. "The cinematography is decent," Marcus noted, "but the concept is kind of derivative." "Have you guys seen the thing? Much better execution of body. Horror." As the Academy staff watched in stunned silence, the humans not only completed the Omega Protocol, but did so while treating it like a moderately interesting field trip. They'd helped most of the surviving alien candidates overcome the challenges, befriended the local wildlife, and identified numerous improvements to the Academy's training methods. Instructor Zektal finally broke the silence that had fallen over. "The monitoring station. Computer, display comprehensive environmental data for planet Earth. Designation Terra." The data that appeared sent shockwaves through the command center. Earth's surface temperature ranged from -40 to over 50 degrees Celsius. Its atmosphere contained enough oxygen to be toxic to most species, while its oceans were deeper and more pressurized than the Academy's worst-case scenarios. The planet's wildlife included creatures that would be classified as apex predators on most worlds, and yet humans considered them part of their natural environment. "They're not just surviving our tests," whispered one instructor. "They're having fun." The implications were staggering. If Earth's normal environmental conditions were more extreme than the galaxy's toughest survival course, what did that make humanity? The Academy had accidentally discovered that what they considered nightmare scenarios were simply Tuesday afternoon for a species that had evolved on what could only be described as a death world. As the humans prepared to return to Earth completely, unaware that they'd just revolutionized the galaxy's understanding of survival and adaptation, Jake raised a question that would haunt the Academy for years to come. "So, is there any extra credit available? Because that was honestly easier than my organic chemistry final." The galaxy would never be the same. The humans had accidentally proven that Earth wasn't just another planet. It was a forge that had created the most terrifyingly capable species in known space. And they'd done it all while trying to figure out if they'd get college credit for the experience. The Omega Protocol was quietly retired the following year. It was deemed insufficiently challenging after 5 college students had turned it into what one instructor described as an educational nature walk with mild inconveniences. Humanities. Application to join the Galactic Council was fast-tracked immediately. Asterisk.